Welcome to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer, a full show of tips and practical strategies to repair, rebuild, and strengthen your relationship. If you are currently stuck, wondering if your marriage can be saved, or you know you want to save it but don't know how to go about changing it, this show is for you. To book your free marriage strategy session with Nicola, get the free marriage ebook or donate. If you are enjoying the show and want to help keep it flowing, visit www.nicolabeer.com.
Hi and welcome. I hope you're great wherever you are. I'm going to be talking today about gaming addiction. Gaming addiction really affects relationships. Addiction in any form tends to be something that really affects relationships. Not to mention can cause them to break down completely. So what is gaming addiction and why is it something that does damage to relationships? That's what I'm going to be covering in this episode. If you thought that this kind of problem was only reserved for teenagers with loads of spare time and no purpose or responsibilities, then think again. The problem is one that affects a lot of adults in relationships because the person who is addicted to the gaming is usually obsessed with their activity. They want to spend more and more time on their phone playing games or on the game console at the expense of pretty much anything else that requires their attention. Addicted gamers tend to spend every minute of their spare time outside the office or household duties playing games, researching new ways to conquer the games that they're into, or finding out about new games that will be hitting the shelves soon. With over 2.5 billion gamers in the world and a gaming industry making in excess of 138 billion in revenue, this has now become a term called Internet Gaming Disorder. So it's actually been labelled. According to a study in Japan, the prevalence of internet addiction worldwide varies from 1% to 27%, depending on the country, which is massive, right? Even if it was just 1%, going to 27%. So gaming is the highest form of the internet addiction. And in the Western world, approximately 1 to 10% of the population have a gaming addiction, which is absolutely huge if you think about it. The thing is about gaming addiction is not, people don't really see it. No one really in the office is going to know, unless of course you're caught playing games at lunchtime. And that's why it can go quite hidden. And also the very nature of gaming addiction is to self-isolate or to stay up late at night and shut yourself off and go into an oblivion with it that people may not notice. So as you can imagine, many people addicted, it's going to affect their relationships, their personal relationships, and having some strains on those connections. So why is gaming addiction so addictive? It's an escape for many gamers, an escape from reality and having to face day-to-day issues and chores. If you're not getting on with your husband or wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, if you don't want to engage with them because they have annoyed you, you can disappear into another world in literally seconds. Screen and phone addiction has been increasing rapidly over the years. Most of us now check our phones all the time, and now it is used to fill up the gaps between talking, waiting, and to rid any feelings of boredom or isolation, loneliness. The difference with gaming is, rather than a quick social media or WhatsApp message check, it sucks them in for a longer time, and the games are of course designed to be highly addictive and want you to repeat again and again and again, even if that means you stay up all night and are late for or miss appointments. Relationships are made stronger by the meaningful time you spend together. This can simply be by hanging out together, doing activities that bring you closer to that person. Quality time in a relationship is crucial because it helps us maintain that bond we share, and it makes people feel valued and loved. If you've listened to the other episodes in this podcast for a while, then you'll know that I mention a minimum of 10 hours a week for couple time, just the two of you. And if you're really rebuilding and you have the time, then ideally 15 hours a week, just the two of you, to refocus and rebuild your connection. In life, there are a lot of things that require our attention. We have to divide our time between work, family, and other commitments that we make along the way, as well as looking after ourselves, making sure that we're our best version of ourselves, using exercise, cooking healthy meals, etc. So while spending enough time with your partner may be a challenge, making the time you do spend together count is important. And spending time together where one is on their phone all the time is not quality time. So how does gaming addiction affect relationships and affect the non-gaming partner? Well, when there is a partner in the relationship that is not into gaming at all, or is not into it as much as the other person, it can result in a deterioration of the relationship. Gamers will usually want to spend time off work catching up on their gaming, and this can be done, of course, at any time, and often it eats into the relationship time and the time to get things done in the house, admin done, things like that. The non-gaming partner can often feel unappreciated, ignored, unimportant, disrespected, unloved, taken for granted. I had one lady in the US whose husband took his gaming console on holidays and would be back at the hotel room, blacking out the curtains so that he could see on his gaming screen, instead of exploring the city and being in the sunshine. Others whose partners never go to bed with them is quite common, where one person goes to bed at 9, 10, 11 at night and their partner is up till 4 or 5 a.m. And of course, when you're not going to bed in the same bed, when you're not going to bed at the same time, the sex life is going to take a toll. And then I've worked with women and men who have said that they find it very frustrating seeing their partner gaming. They find it unattractive. They feel that their intellect is moving down and they are bored because their partner just wants to sit on the sofa on the weekends and play, and they start to associate them as being boring, and they feel alone because they're not able to do things together. And they will question, am I really loved? Am I really not as interesting as playing a game? Having worked with men and women to singly hand their gaming addiction or couples to support through this, I often find that mood swings are happening. There's a lot of mood swings with losing games, time spent on it, because it's not relaxing. And if you go to bed buzzed up by a game, you're not going to sleep as well. So it really can affect so many areas of life. I've also had it where couples have fallen out because the gaming person doesn't want any noise, any distractions, any interruptions. They just need to be completely left alone. And they argue with their partner because they feel that they're always nagging at them, they can't be themselves. And so it can cause these kind of conflicts. And resentment can go both ways. The person who's into the gaming can feel like, this is how I relax, leave me alone, let me be, and don't judge me. And sometimes in form of rebellion, people want to play games even more when they're told that they can't or they shouldn't. That makes them even more wanting to do that. And you know, I talk a lot about resentment. It's a major part of my couples program and individual program when I work with people to clear their resentment of the past so that they can feel alive again. Resentment kills passion, and if there's resentment in between the couple, their closeness is going to be affected, which can bring up a whole host of other problems. Because when you have resentment, you don't speak to each other as kindly, and there's a lot of other tension and issues. And people can feel judged and criticised, and this can cause them to go out of their way to avoid their partner or even hurt their partner. So I've helped a lot of people with gaming addiction, teenagers as well as adults and couples. It's a real phenomenon and it needs to be addressed. Another way I see gaming addiction causing problems is where it eats into the family time. So I've talked about the couple time, but also the family time. And what's most important for some people is having their partner make the relationship and family a priority. And sometimes people will say, well, I'm only playing when you and the children are asleep, so I'm not harming anyone. But of course, if that is eating into 4 or 5 a.m., as I mentioned, that will affect it. It's often similar to people that are into alcohol, shisha, smoking, porn addiction. It's an illusion to thinking that because you're doing it when the other people are asleep in your house, that it's not affecting them. Of course it affects them, because it affects everything. It affects your energy, your connection, and things like that. And obviously, not sleeping together, as I mentioned, can interrupt the intimacy, and feeling tired can make people grumpy and unwilling to do things to help around the house, unwilling to do activities, which can also lead to separate rooms and not very good weekends. This really happened in my relationship years ago. My partner was addicted to numbing out in front of the TV. He watched the trashiest reruns of really awful movies, and then he'd watch the same because they'd be repeating the same movies that month. I just don't know how he did it. I used to go to bed around 11:30 at night, and he would come into bed about 4 a.m, and then I would get up around 7 a.m, start working out. So it was just like, it became easier to sleep in separate rooms. And then he would get annoyed that I would be doing my workout DVD at 7 a.m, and I'd be like, well, I have to work out, it affects my mental health. If I'm not working out, I don't feel good. And our closeness just deteriorated. I just could not watch what he was watching, and I had no interest in staying up till 3 or 4 a.m. watching trash. And we became more like flatmates, living in different worlds. So, is it time to wake up? Is it time to seek gaming addiction help? Or perhaps some counselling, some coaching to make your relationship better and to get on the same page, create an action plan, find a healthier way to escape. Because the major thing that I've met when I've helped people with gaming addiction, porn addiction, internet addiction, phone addiction, things like that, is a huge amount of regret. When people have recovered, they're like, I can't believe I spent that much time. I can't believe I shut down my life that much. I can't believe I didn't spend time with my husband or wife, time with my children, and I don't want you to have any regrets. So if this is resonating with you, take action. Reach out to someone, get some help. You're welcome to reach out to me, make a change, and don't let the habit continue any longer than it needs to. I've also had it where people have left, they've broken up the marriage because of it, and the other person said, look, it's just too late. I'm so hurt. I mentioned it enough times. Only now I'm leaving, you're taking notice. I'm sorry, but it's too late for me. Being addicted to gaming removes people from the real world, a meaningful interaction, healthy relationships in many cases. Instead, traps them in a virtual reality. Everybody has a breaking point, and when someone can no longer take it anymore, they may decide that enough is enough and get into action, where it can go two ways. Either the partner decides it's not worth living a life this way and leaves, and they decide not to invest in an attempt to work on the relationship, or they turn around and together they start investing in the actions to bring them closer. I always find alternatives work best with this kind of thing, helping people to find a healthy replacement. I also have lots of other tools to help people quit habits. So if either of you are wanting support, then you can reach out to me. And if you're not ready for that yet, here are my top 6 things to keep in mind for gaming addiction. The first one is not to join their hobby. I've heard the expression, if you can't beat them, join them. In this case, the solution for the non-gaming person is not to get into gaming as well. Firstly, because instead of addressing the problem and helping the person realize that this may be becoming a bit obsessive, you're allowing the person to default back into their addictive habit of escaping. Secondly, the action doesn't give your relationship deep connection with like affection, conversation, sex and intimacy, attention, appreciation. Those are the keys that really make a relationship strong, and this will take away from that. So I would say if you're trying to help your partner, not to join them in the hobby. The second is avoid calling it addiction. No one likes to be told they've got an addiction. Only you can decide if you feel that you have become addicted. And you may not like the word addictions. You may prefer habit, you may prefer problem, and that's perfectly fine. Studies have shown that excessive or unhealthy video gaming habits can interfere with social, relational, educational, occupational, and emotional functioning. That's a lot. So it is important to say something if you're really concerned for your partner. However, it's got to be done in a calm way. Like, do you think that you are having a healthy balance with your gaming and that kind of thing? And they may not even feel that it's a real problem, and they may go into denial, like most of the people I work with porn addiction and alcohol addiction and things like that. No one likes to be told, and they need to come to their own conclusion. That's why it's really important not to say anything like that. Another thing you have to be really careful of is not to label them as having other issues. Whilst there has been evidence that gaming addiction can be a symptom of underlying issues like depression, anxiety, interpersonal difficulties, it's not always the case. And it's far better to encourage them to get help if they want to than start saying to them, you're depressed, you've got a problem here, you've got this, you've got that, of course. And you may have tried pretending that it's not there. However, that isn't going to do your relationship any favours, so it is important to talk to them. Talk to them and address it in a kind, loving way, in a calm way, not thrown up in an argument, and not to wait for time to just make things better, because often problems like this, they don't go away with time. So to be sure your partner knows that you love them and you care about them, that you're concerned about this habit, that you really miss spending time together, that you feel it's affecting your relationship, that the habit leaves you feeling ignored and undervalued. And be sure to use I feel rather than you make me feel. It's important for you to also find actions and solutions that work for you both. So what's next? If you're doing these, talking it through, being loving and caring, your partner may start to listen to you and accept that they do have an issue. Perhaps start asking them to cut back a little bit and reduce it over time. Finding healthy alternatives that you can do together is also a great thing. And also, don't take it personally. It's not about you. If you think about any addictive habit, it's not about the other person in the relationship. It's about an attachment to something that either helps someone to escape, to numb their feelings, to switch off, releases serotonin in the brain. It's like a chemical kind of rush. Addictions generally have these things, and they are not able to stop despite loving someone, despite caring for someone, despite so many other things. They just find that they cannot stop. And the last thing you may want to consider is getting some support. I often combine coaching, strategies, alternatives, holding people accountable. They can email me or WhatsApp me anytime to get off whatever it is, the addiction we're focusing on together. And we're filling their life with more interesting, engaging, great challenges. And activities. And then there is also making sure that it's changing at the subconscious level. Because if something gives us pleasure, the mind and the brain, we wire ourselves to that neurological pathway is formed. Oh, this feels good. This helped in this situation. And then when we repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, it can be very automatic. So I generally sometimes tend to do hypnotherapy or meditation to help someone change their mind at the subconscious level. So that's what I recommend. If you are struggling with this, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. And if you haven't already done so, then feel free to join our relationship group. If you just put into Facebook, Nicola Beer, relationship tips, advice, then I have a Facebook group where so many people are joining. It's amazing. And I'm going to be putting in more videos and content in there as well. And it's a lovely way that group members just share with the group what's going on in their relationship. They ask questions. Only private members of the group can see the posts. No one outside of the group can see anything posted. So it helps people to feel safe and share and ask and engage. So do join us if you are on Facebook and would like to. So to conclude, no one likes to feel invisible in a relationship or unloved because their partner's time is consumed by something else. And what I really wanted to get across here is that it needs to be addressed and not left. Because when resentment builds, it causes a wedge between couples. And the person can start to feel rejected, unwanted, uncared for. And this can lead to affairs, it can lead to low self-esteem, it can lead to jealousy and insecurity, it can lead to distance, it can lead to more engaging in addictive habits that take you away from the relationship to help you escape, numb yourself and things like that. If you have children, it's also very important to work together and show your children that you are a loving couple, that you have good communication, and that both of you are living your life healthy and well. I've worked with teenagers with gaming addiction. I've also worked with teenagers who are children of their mother's or father's addiction. And it can really affect them as well. They feel rejected, they feel low self-esteem, they feel uninterested when their partner is really glued to their phone. So do reach out to me if you'd like to find anything more out about how I help couples. I do a lot of online work. It works really, really well. And you can reach me at nicolabeer.com if you want to read more about my services. And of course, join the Facebook group that I mentioned and keep coming back here because I have another episode for you next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer. To book your free marriage strategy session today, you can visit www.nicolabeer.com, where you can also get the free marriage fixing ebook, request a topic for the show, and make a donation if the show has been of benefit to you and you want to help keep it going. We wish you an amazing love-filled day ahead.